talk about unions in specific, because it's not like they haven't been going after your health benefits, your pensions. What's some of the things you guys have dealt with? My beautiful woman over there has been pretty silent.
They've gone after pretty much everything that they fought for, that we fought for over the years. And me as being a progression worker, is that what it's called? Entry level worker. I feel that it's pretty ludicrous, the attack that they've come at us with, and they've been going after basically all of them: health, wage, everything, all the benefits.
Right now, entry level workers in progression is what they call them. They don't have a pension. Now, trust me, like she says, we have a UAW that fights for that, and we're thankful for that. But we also have a corporation with the greed that says the auto workers need to learn how to live a life of poverty. That was Sergio's words, okay?
The CEO or the company said that?
Yes. The CEO of the company said that. This was like at the inception of the transition between the government and fiat coming over. We need to humble ourselves. That's a mighty message to send to the American auto worker, or to any worker for that fact, that walking out who are backs beat up, feet with all kind of sores, and talk about health insurance. Once again, I'm a traditional employee. We were the gold standard for health insurance. Everybody looked at the auto industry like, hey, you guys got it made, right? Well, now we have to a traditional, we have to pay our first $300 that we beyond the copay than we ever had to pay. Now, most of America say, well, hey, we've been paying into this system all along. It's about time you pay your fair right. Well, most of America are not in the plants 10, 12, 6 days a week, working on their feet. We have to fight for ergo relief. We have to fight for safety. We have to work on concrete. I'm sorry. We have to work on concrete until we can get these things through the grievance process and force the company to do the right thing. So these things do affect our health. Like I said, those guys, they don't have pensions. So when they retire, what they got? 401k. But the 401k market several years ago tanked. I mean, I lost $30,000. I'm pretty sure most of the people at the table lost some money in there, right? But that 401k was our retirement. So if you don't have a guaranteed pension or things of that in place, and the company's not supporting you, but they're asking you to work for 30 years and sacrifice and give your body for them for 30 years, then what do you really have at the end of the day? I mean, and that's where we are. That's why I say it's class welfare, because most people who are in unions, we are blessed. Most of those folks are facing their end of their future with no future. They don't know how they're going to make it, so they are going to work till they're 70, 80. We have people now, I'm pretty sure you guys are, people working until they die. That's not the golden years. The golden years, you're supposed to retire, sit back with your grandkids, enjoy the fruits of your labor, have a nest egg that your company is saying, hey, we're going to contribute to that. All that's out the window. We don't have that anymore. We don't have the 401k match so you can go into that retirement fund. We're still dealing with higher health care. I understand they do have Obamacare and other health insurance plans. They're supposed to subsidize that. But is that the gold standard that we used to have when actually, in reality, the cost of living was cheaper 10 years ago, but you was able to afford it? It never ceased to amaze me that a car in 1970 cost $3,000, $4,000 for the tops, right? All the industry wages was on par, house, car, family. Now, a car costs $40,000, $50,000, right? A home costs $300,000, $200,000, $125,000. But the wage did not keep pace with that. Insurance, health insurance is skyrocketing. And the companies are absorbing it, and really they're not. They're passing it on. We cut your wage. We made you an entry-level worker, right? So we cut you down to 15. We progressed you to 17, 18, 19, 20. But now you don't have to pay, but your traditionals making 28, who didn't get a raise for 12 years, you need to pay $300 to get to even go see the doctor.
One thing about the auto industry is there's never really no advancement. We're all stuck at that pay rate, you know. And another thing I will say is that it doesn't feel good working next to a sister or brother that does make less than you when we're all doing the same job. It's one thing when you're working your way up, because we all had to work our way up. You're putting in your 5 years, 8 years, whatever your max out years are. But at the end of the day, we expect to all be equal. You know, and that was another part of the attack on unions to me. That's another way to undermine the unions. You come in here and these big corporations say, hey, we need you to make these concessions. And all the concessions we made it so that the union looked like they undermine their people. It's always us playing against each other, you know, and it's really all we have. And it was all part of their big plot and their big ploy. You know, at the end of the day, it is really them versus us, you know, and it's really sad. It's sad because, too, we do make great quality cars at a mass production. That is one thing I've always been proud to say, is that I work for a mass production plant. You know, we were able to push out, 1,300, 1,200 cars a day, you know, quality cars. You know, and at the end of the day, it's totally been unappreciated. I mean, you've taken everything. Like he just was saying, as auto workers, we don't feel our pain in 40 hours. We feel our, after 8 hours, you know, you've been there 8 hours. It was a time we made time and a half after 8 hours. You know, at the time, it was a time that they couldn't work you past this and work you past that. I mean, we've made so many concessions, and we have given back so much to only get so little back. And now you literally are petrified seeing your jobs go overseas. I literally have it in my head that I know I might not be able to retire from here after 16 years. And my son, who's just starting, my biggest thing is stay in school, get a trade, do something. You know, you can't, they have to work extra hard because these jobs may not be here. And it's right in our face that they probably won't be here.
I mean, if people are getting laid off, or if parents are working 60 hours, I mean, kids don't really have much guidance, or they can't go to school or whatever. Are you seeing ramifications for pretty much the never-ending roller coaster of the older generation on the younger generation?
Yeah, to start off with the ramifications, you know, my father, he was in the auto industry. He worked 12-hour days, 6-7 days a week. That kind of destroyed his home life. Growing up, my parents got divorced, you know, and then he divorced and I didn't have college tuition or, you know, to go to college. So I joined the, you know, auto industry, and I got 5 years vested, and I'm making decent money for my age. Yet I still have yet to make a major purchase like a house or, you know, an investment. I can't afford it. I don't want to get locked in at 30 years, and the market auto industry is so volatile that I'm out of a job. Currently, you know, I'm laid off. I just got picked up at a different plant, but it's so volatile. I'm afraid to make a big purchase, you know.
And I'm assuming men or women working 60, 70 hours isn't exactly helpful to a marriage either.
Not at all. And you know, the kids suffer from that, you know. It's something else. And it's everywhere you go. You know, we're blessed to be in the union where we have, you know, fight for worker rights. Some people don't have that. It's work 60 hours in an office cubicle or you don't have a job.
And something I find very interesting is Republicans like to talk about family values, and they're the party of family values and, you know, the Leave It to Beaver TV dad. Doesn't seem like they are worried about you guys. Obviously, talked about the family. Do we see an increase in crime when there's, you know, these kinds of things happening?
Well, I'll say first thing, when you talk about family, it's kind of dear to my heart because, like I said, she has a son and has a daughter. My daughter hates my job. She understands now. She's in college now. She understands the benefits that came from my job, as far as financial, for me putting in those long hours. But she hates my job. Why? Because I am divorced. She attributes my job to part of the reason because I was working so much, breakdown in the family home. She went through her teenage years where she got into a lot of trouble. Fortunately, we was able to railroad it as a village. My mom, my dad, my ex-wife mom, you know, everybody was able to get involved and rein it in. But I was not there. I mean, yeah, you know, I just produced, yeah, exactly. I just produced the money. And that's why we keep on going back to it's more than just money, right? And the same thing with her. You know, when I first started dating her, she two-income home now. But one thing I used to say, well, it seems like we buy our kids now because we're trying to replace that quality time with money. You know what I'm saying? And then the outside world, well, you wearing this, or you got this, or you driving this. Or, no, but that's really a facade for what's really going on behind the scene. So you see, especially in Detroit and a lot of the inner cities, because to be honest, a lot of the inner cities are the auto industry workers. There's a migration from the south to the north for these jobs, right? But in the reality also is crime. And where does crime come from? Because they come from not just the auto industry, any industry. The parent is not home saying, hey, let me be there with Johnny. Let me make these parent-teacher conferences. So Johnny started feeling like nobody cares. Nobody cares.
Our plants in these neighborhoods affect the neighborhoods, like this Coney Island we're sitting in. I'm sure since we've been off, their profits are probably 50%. You know, I'm sure they probably had to let workers work less hours. And the same thing with the stores down the street and the Myers and everywhere else. Because when we're here, we're making money, we're thriving, we're shopping, we're buying things in these areas. We're helping the economy flow. At the point that you're sending these jobs overseas and whatnot, we can't spend the money. I know for one thing right now, I will not be spending the money in Christmas that I normally spend this year, you know, and I have my first grandchild. But at the end of the day, we have to buckle down and we're spending less. We're laid off, which means these are all taxpayers too, you know, and at the end of the day, it's a trickling effect down, just right on down the food chain.
And what do you have to say to the argument that, well, do you like your iPhone not being $10,000, or do you like cheaper goods that we get as a result of that? Because that's a talking point on both sides of the aisle, that globalization helps keep, produce lower costs for goods and services nowadays.
I'll give you an answer to that. And if you can answer it for me, I'd be great. I'd be happy. How is it that we were building cars in 1970 for $3,800, right? Out of the steel mills that it took men literally on their backs to go in and get. We ran coal mills to build this vehicle. All the byproducts that went in to make this vehicle, and you sell it for $3,800, right? Fast forward to today, the car now is $40,000. We got more fuel efficient. We got cheaper processes. Now we're using plastic on cars. We're losing aluminum. We all these cheaper measures it didn't translate to you and me. It translated to the profits. So when you say the iPhone is $1,000, really? Really? I understand the initial cost of technology to invest, to understand that technology and develop it. But at a certain point, really in the manufacturing business, really is it $1,000? Or is that the overhead cost to make that profit for the executive? And that's what I think it boils down to. Because a lot of things in America, a lot of things in the world have gotten cheaper because we have learned to get better in our processes. We have found better ways to do things. But the cost constantly goes up. And that never balanced out to me.
Well, there's also a difference. I mean, if you look at the 50s and the 60s, the CEO did not make 250 times their employee. Unions were very strong, and there was a domino effect. Other companies, to make sure their workers didn't go union, paid a good wage. You didn't have all these basically legal financial rules where money could just flow into politics like this. And frankly, I know it's a movie, but I do think there's something to be said. The 1980s, you saw Wall Street, greed is good. And I think that mentality kind of seeped in throughout the Capitol and beyond. You guys think that essentially this has come down to, maybe it's simplifying it, but survival of the fittest, greed, whatever you want to call it, on the part of our government?
It's absolutely survival of the fittest. People greed, and it's transparent everywhere. I mean, if you look at the pharmaceutical industry, the issues that they're going through right now with the EpiPen. I mean, and the prices are astronomical, and this is something. And the only reason why the prices are driven so high is because those that are behind the pharmaceutical industries know that this is something that people actually need. They have to have it, and there's no other answer to that.
Right, but as a government, work on that. Do that. Down some of those prices. Make it so that people can only charge so much for certain things. Don't have $1,000 iPhone. Make it so they can only charge it. And then we're making our iPhones here in America, we're making our cars in America, and we're spending our money in America. At the same time, yeah, things might be a little higher because it's better quality and we're getting it right here at home. But guess what? We're making more money. And then that way our country could thrive more. That way it's more about us. But in that way, everybody gets a piece of the pie. But we're not going to do that. It's all about them.
And that's why I think we as the working people, it's crucial for us to make sure that people are registered to vote and get out and vote this coming election, because going back to greed, to me, greed is like a major factor. And we as the working people need to get someone that's about us, that wants the same things, that see our views, see the American dream.
At the end of the day, when our government is run by the highest bidder, and politicians, for the most part, are self-interested in staying in office, and to do that, there's stories that have gone out this year that they spend 5-6 hours a day calling donors.
you got to take the money out of politics. It's crazy that, in the 70s, the amount of money you look at was spent, now it's in the millions, and this year's projected to hit billions. It's crazy. All these rich corporations are fueled and addicted to profits, and they're, all that addiction to profit is, costing the human labor. We're getting screwed at the end.
Trump wants to make America great again, or how do we just take it back? How can we get America back for us? How does it become our country again? How does it work for everybody? Right, right, and exactly, for us it's never been great, not in my generation anyways. I can't speak for the generations before, but I know when I read the history books and I look before, it didn't seem too great. It's always been a constant struggle, and labor is always a constant struggle. We're always constantly fighting. It's something that we can never just take our hat off and say, wow, we won this battle. If we win this battle, it's another one coming, or we lose this battle, then we live to fight another day. But it's a constant, when something so simple shouldn't be a constant battle. You literally, these are the people that you need to build this country. These are the people who build this country off their own backs. And at the end of the day, it's so easy just to X us out.
If you guys could lock our politicians in a room, and you had the crowbar locking them in, and you were next to them, what is the message you would send them? Would you tell them, you work for us? Would you have specific requests? What is, to you, the fundamental, I don't want to say solution, but the message that needs to get in their head about what you guys are going through and what needs to be done? Because also, when auto workers or any workers are doing well, the economy tends to do well. So.
I was thinking while you're speaking, the only thing I would be able to say to either one of them is fair, equality, and then take care of home first. When that's home, it's not just the auto industry, any industry. Make sure that we are a country that's producing goods, and we're seeing a return on our dollar. I know globalization is a fact of life, and we do need to interact with our neighbors throughout the world. That's just part of life. But we need to make sure that we're taking care of home and we're being fair and giving everybody a fair shake at that American dream that they say that we're supposed to believe in.
Just keep it fair, remember where you came from, and, remember about the basic person, that's pretty much it.
I would basically tell them that we all, should come together. You should listen to our views, acknowledge our views, and take care of home.
I think I would want them to really think about what they want, what's best for their children, not, wholeheartedly, and to really put that into consideration for everybody in our nation, not in a political view, but in just a human view, because sometimes it just seems like they're not human. Like we were talking about that earlier, they run like robots, and sometimes they need to think like humans and think about what they want for their children, their grandchildren.
I basically want them to have a reality check, to put themselves in our shoes, just take it down a couple of notches and experience, or just think about the everyday struggles and everyday issues of what normal people do and live day to day, and take it from there.
Kind of to piggyback off what she just said, it's literally at a point that I would almost like to see them have to live where we live and do what we do, because I don't believe that they can understand what we go through. I don't believe that they can even at all, I'm sorry, I don't believe that they can even fathom what we do and how we live and how we make ends meet, and to have to worry about a bill being paid, or to worry about whether or not your check is coming, just like unemployment. Unemployment, we always had, extensions and whatnot. This is my first time ever being laid off, and I ran out of unemployment. I've worked 16 years at the same corporation, but I've worked over half my life. I've been working since I was 14 years old. How do I not have unemployment? And at the end of the day, I don't believe that they could ever understand, but I think my biggest thing for both of them would be they have children. And to think about your child and just know that we love our children just as much as you love yours. And we want our children to drive nice cars, go to nice schools, and be somebody just like they want theirs. The only difference is they were not put into a position or born into a position of money. So therefore, we're working hard for ours.
Not all of us are afforded the same opportunities. Prior to even now with me being laid off, I find myself having to stay 3 steps ahead of everybody, of everyone, and if you don't do that, you will surely perish. There's no doubt about it. It's not easy, and a lot of politicians in the top 1% don't have that transparency. They just don't. They've never lived with that. They've never woke up. They've never gotten up and had to take a bucket bath because they don't have any hot water, legitimate hot water, or as you said, blow the candle out because you don't have lights.
And I want them to know, when you look at your child, and we feel the same way. We love ours just as much, and ours are just as important as theirs. I think that's one of the main things, that do this for long term. Do this for, that is the one good thing about some of when they talk about the free 2-year schooling, for college or whatnot. I mean, school is so high. Everything we want good for our children. Our children aren't born bad. We're just born poor. It's a difference. We're not bad. We're poor.
I echo off of, I think you said it, but I'd like to have them come down to where you work and do it. I bet you, maybe at the high point, they'd last 20 minutes, and then go home and try to parent.
I do want to say one thing. I'm listening to all these stories. I'm an elected official there, so I hear a lot of stuff. I'm going to tell you 2 stories real quick. I had one lady, and I'm pretty sure everybody heard of this before, at the plant. Because of fear of losing her job, but no other option, she came to work with her baby. And obviously that we can't allow that because you can't have a baby in a workplace like that for safety reasons. But sometimes you have to sit back and say, how did she get to that decision making? That she's going to come to work and perform an 8-hour job and leave a baby in a car. So this is stuff we see on the news, right? But this is reality. It happens. People are forced to make these types of choices. And there's somebody on the outside would say, well, she must have made poor decisions growing up. Maybe she did. But she just couldn't afford daycare. Maybe she did. But here we are now, and she's trying to do what's needed to be done to survive. And my other story is, I have this happened this year, 2016. Young lady coming to work, a steel rod fell off a construction truck on one of the major thoroughfares over there. Came to her windshield. She came to work. She called. I'm coming to work. I don't want to be late, and I can't afford to be off. So, we take the call. Okay, yeah, it's not that serious. She literally had a rod, this round, sticking through her windshield, full of glass. And obviously, we got her to the emergency and all that kind of. But what made her think that not stopping and addressing the issue, whatever needs to be done, was less important than coming to work? But like she said, I cannot afford to be off. So these are the choices that a lot of Americans are making daily. When they say we're one check away from being destitute, it's true. It's true.
What she's thinking, fear. Fear. Thank you, guys. I'm going to try not to go home and cry myself to sleep. But I think what we just saw is pretty much the disappearing middle class. So thanks again.